I want to thank Steve Z316 for becoming my latest subscriber. Thank you very much. So Tna Impact was a live show in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and it's open fight night. Jeff Hardy comes out to the ring and he says he's going to call someone out, but then Aces and Eights comes out and Bully Ray gets on the mic and he questions why Hardy would attempt to call him out, saying that it's not Corpus Christi and that the title wouldn't be on the line, which obviously means that Bully Ray and Jeff Hardy are going to meet each other in 2 weeks at the next live Impact. Now, Mr. Anderson is standing on the ring apron, next to Bully Ray outside of the ring, and he takes the mic and he goes off on Hardy, talking about how Hardy continuously gets second chances. He shoots on Hardy a little bit, talking about how he's burned down buildings, which obviously makes a reference to the house fire that Hardy suffered from 5 years ago. And then he talks about Hardy selling merch, which is a reference, to the obvious. And then Hardy hits Anderson, and then all the members of Aces and Eights, hit the ring, and they all attack Hardy. And then Magnus, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, and Eric Young all come to the ring, and Aces and Eights retreats. And then Hardy calls out Mr. Anderson for a match that will take place later in the show. Now, seeing as that Bully Ray is now leading Aces and Eights, I really thought that we weren't going to see those instances in which Aces and Eights would look weak. And we saw that last night. There were 8 members of Aces and Eights. You had 4 guys come out from the TNA locker room. 4 guys should not be chasing off 8 guys. It's not to say that Aces and Eights has to look strong every week. There are instances that you have to have the other side get the best of them to keep things interesting. But it has to be logical. And you can't have 4 guys chase off 8 guys. If there had been just 4 members of Aces and Eights there, and you have those guys come out, then fine. But 4 guys should not be chasing off 8 guys. So then you have Hernandez and Chavo Guerrero come to the ring, and they call out Bad Influence. And they have a match. Decent match. Now the winner of this match will become the number 1 contenders to the World Tag Team Championship. And Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez win the match. Chavo Guerrero, comes off the top with a splash on Daniels. And now they get a title shot against Robert Roode and Austin Aries in Corpus Christi in 2 weeks. Now, we knew, if you just apply logic to the situation, we knew that Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez were going to win this match. Bad Influence wasn't going to win this match. You're going to have them go up against Roode and Aries on Impact? No. The jack-off match is Slammiversary all the way. But now, are Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez going to beat Roode and Aries? No. There would be no point to that. This is what happens when we have a lack of tag teams in this division. They could have brought in at least 2 teams maybe 6 months ago, and at this point you could have installed what I would say a meaningful stall. One team you could have put in a program with Roode and Aries, another team against Bad Influence. Meaningful being that you create two programs not just for the sake of doing it, but creating something that will be compelling to fans, that they will care. And the stall being that you're taking up time until you're ready to start promoting the jack-off match for Slammiversary. But because TNA has failed to do that, then you got Chavo Guerrero and Hernandez being moved back and forth. And, matches we've already seen, situations that aren't going to be compelling because there's no point in doing them. So, unfortunately, that's the state that they're in, but all they can do is just continue on the best they can, until the eventual match that happens at Slammiversary. So then TNA decides to put an Instafact on screen, and I really don't know what the point of this was. It made reference to the record attendance at Lockdown, and okay, that was almost 3 weeks ago. What's the point of putting this on screen? I don't know. So then Taryn Terrell, the former quote-unquote ref, comes out to the ring in her go-go outfit. Wrestling gear. And she calls out Gail Kim. Gail Kim comes out and says she's the best female wrestler in the business, and she tells Taryn Terrell that, she's rubbed other people the wrong way, one other person in particular, that being Tara. So then Gail Kim calls Tara out. Tara comes out with Mr. Duh, and as they're walking to the ring, Gail Kim attacks Taryn Terrell from behind, and then Tara joins in, and they're both attacking. And then Velvet Sky comes out and turns back Gail Kim and Tara, and they both retreat. Okay. So then they come back from the commercial break, and Velvet Sky and Taryn Terrell are backstage, and Velvet Sky's talking, and Gail Kim and Tara have passed them by off camera, and then Taryn Terrell just rushes and starts attacking Gail Kim in this little hallway. And then Velvet Sky grabs Taryn, and Tara grabs Gail Kim, and keeping them separated. Now, what I wanted to see was all four women brawling in that hallway. Why didn't we see that? Because we know the tag team match is coming. So the best way to get interest into that is to see them brawling. But instead we have Velvet Sky holding Taryn Terrell back and Tara holding Gail Kim back, as if to say, oh, well, we don't want to see you kill each other, right, Tara? Yeah, that's right, girl. You don't see me and Velvet fighting each other, right, Velvet? Yeah. You've lessened the effect of what you're trying to accomplish. Not only building interest for the tag team match that's going to happen, but continuing to intensify the anticipation for the eventual singles match between Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell. So I really didn't like the way that whole thing was handled. But TNA has made it very clear that they needed to keep Velvet Sky involved in this somewhere. Because for some reason TNA thinks that the women can't have multiple storylines. And at this point, they don't really have a choice but to have a singular storyline, because Velvet Sky has no one to defend the title against. I talked about an outside chance that maybe Madison Rayne would come back and beat Velvet Sky's opponent, but Madison Rayne is pregnant, so that option is gone. And now Velvet, there are no other heels. There's nobody else. So naturally, with this Gail, Kim, Taryn Terrell thing going on, instead of having Velvet Sky overshadowed by that, now you bring her into that because there is nothing else. And naturally, Gail Kim needs a partner. Who else is there but Tara? And I talked about the failure of TNA bringing in tag teams. Here is another failure, bringing in female wrestlers. This is what happens. The restrictions are starting to choke your creativity. So then TNA shows a promotional video for Gut Check. And then Jeremy Borash announces that there'll be a Gut Check match next week. And the two participants are there. You have Adam Pearce and you have Magno. Now, Adam Pearce is a 5-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Now, I know that is not the prestigious NWA that we all remember, but he's still a 5-time champion. He was also a booker for 2 years, I think from 2008 to 2010 with Ring of Honor. Magno, I know that he has wrestled in TNA. He participated in the World X Cup in 2006 with Team Mexico. It would have been nice to have heard some comments from both of them. I don't care if Magno, I don't know if he speaks English or not, but who cares? Let's hear something from them, and instead of them just standing there and then facing off. I mean, you know, would have added a little more interest to it. But let me say this. I think it is insulting that Adam Pearce has to go through Gut Check. This is a guy that you could sign to the main roster right now. He is that talented. And those of you who know Adam Pearce know that to be true. And the fact that he has to go through Gut Check to prove something. I mean, this is a 17-year veteran. I mean, Gut Check should be for up-and-comers who are right there on the cusp of, you know, getting over, you know, having that mainstream exposure. There is no way that Adam Pearce should be going through this. Even if he got the Gut Check contract, are we going to see him on the main roster, or is he going to go? You are not sending him to OVW. You are not going to do that. Come on now. But for him to have to go through this, yeah. So then we see Sting, and he wants to talk to Hogan, and security guy blocks Sting from going in. He says Hogan doesn't want to see him, and then we see Hogan backstage with Jeff Hardy, and he says that Hardy can pick the stipulation for the championship match in Corpus Christi in 2 weeks. Now, why is the challenger allowed to pick the stipulation? I think that some people would say, well, the champion should be the one that should be setting down the stipulation, or if Hogan is going to offer a stipulation, then it should be a neutral stipulation that doesn't give one wrestler an advantage over the other. But for Hardy to be the one that picks it, you know, I mean, okay, I don't get that, but you know, creatively it doesn't make sense. But okay. So Sting comes out and he calls out Hogan since it's open fight night. And then Hogan comes out and Hogan and Sting are going at each other, and Hogan tells Sting to get out of his ring. Sting says, "Make me," and then security steps in. Listen. You could be the biggest Hogan mark, or you could be the biggest Sting mark. Nobody wants to see this. Nobody wants to see this. And on the surface, you can say that this would be so great for the company. But below the surface, if you're a Hogan mark or you're a Sting mark, you know goddamn well you don't want to see this. We don't want to see it. But of course, it's Hogan being Hogan. Hogan being Hogan. So then we see a video of AJ Styles attacking James Storm. And then James Storm comes out. He calls out AJ Styles, but AJ Styles doesn't come out. But then James Storm looks up in the crowd, and AJ Styles is standing there, at the top of a flight of stairs in the crowd, just staring down at the ring. And James Storm basically says, "Look, I know stuff is going on with you. You can do one of two things. Either we can talk about it or we can fight." And then Aces Nate's attacks Storm. It's Garrett Bischoff, Wes Briscoe, and Director of Chaos. And AJ Styles then leaves. And then Eric Young and Kurt Angle hit the ring and turn those guys back. And then Kurt Angle calls them out because it's open fight night. And then it's a 6-man tag match that starts right there. Decent match. Basically, the way it ends, Kurt Angle goes through a barrage of suplexes on all three members of Aces and Eights. Then D'Lo Brown comes to the ring and distracts Angle a little bit. Garrett Bischoff has a chain wrapped around his fist and he attempts to hit Kurt Angle. Angle ducks. And he puts the ankle lock on Bischoff. But then Wes Briscoe comes from behind, schoolboy's Angle. Has a bunch of tights in his hand. And they get the win. Aces and Eights. I'm fine with this. Aces and Eights should start winning matches like this. So let's see. So then we go backstage, and Bully Ray and Devon with Mr. Anderson. Basically, it's just more hype for the match against Hardy, and Mr. Anderson just goes way over the top, and okay. So then you have the X Division promo video, and then Jeremy Borash announces an X Division qualifying match that will take place next week. And the three participants are there. You have Sanjay Dutt, you have Mason Andrews, and you have Petey Williams. And the winner of that match for next week will then be placed in the next X Division Championship match with Kenny King and Zemayan, and that likely is going to be on the show in Corpus Christi as well. So then you had the main event, Jeff Hardy against Mr. Anderson. And decent match. Basically, the way it ends, it's Mr. Anderson crashed into the ref, and the ref goes down. Garrett Bischoff, I guess, throws a hammer to him, or hands him a hammer. He swings the hammer at Hardy, and Hardy ducks, gives him the twist of fate, and then Anderson drops the hammer, and then Hardy hits Anderson with a hammer, and the referee calls for the bell. And then he hits Garrett Bischoff with the hammer. And then an interesting sequence that happens, Hardy uses a chair on Anderson, and he pulls out a table from under the ring and props it up, puts Anderson, and then he gets a ladder and props the ladder in the ring, and then he puts Anderson on the table, and he goes up on the ladder. He's going to come off on the ladder, and then Bully Ray saves Mr. Anderson. And then Jeff Hardy says, yeah, I know what stipulation I'm going to do now. It's going to be Full Metal Mayhem for the match in 2 weeks. And the show ends. So, here's the thing. If TNA could just address these particular things, I mean, they're getting there. They're doing the right things. There are still some things that need to be handled. The tag team division, the women's division, maybe a little bit more attention to the X division, but things are looking good so far, and hopefully they'll improve. I'm Tazmart 2002, and that was my Tna Impact Analysis for March 28th, 2013. Please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike buttons. And if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me at Twitter, TAZMARK2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, send me an email, Tazmart2002@gmail.com. It was a solid show. It was clear that the emphasis was on the Corpus Christi show in 2 weeks. It was good progression with most of the storylines. And I think that if this is the way that TNA is going to do things, I think it's a good strategy. If they start putting emphasis on the live shows and maybe use the tape shows, since the spoilers are coming out, practically immediately, and people are aware of what's going to happen, maybe if they use the tape shows as kind of a promotional tool and start pushing the live shows more, I think that's going to be a positive benefit for them. So we'll see what happens there, and I think things are looking good, but they could be better. I'm Tazmart 2002, gone.